Marcus's ex-wife laughed as she finalized their divorce, leaving him with nothing but a decaying mansion. In the courtroom, Claire's laughter sliced through him like glass. She had taken everything, his company, his homes, his accounts, and left him only the old estate on Millstone Hill. That dump? He can keep it, she said with a smirk, convinced she had destroyed him. What she didn't know was that, years earlier, Marcus had transformed that very house into his private refuge, a hidden vault stacked with cash, gold and jewels no court could ever seize. Months later, as Claire's fortune collapsed under mounting debt, Marcus returned to the public eye stronger and more composed than ever. Before we continue, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, please hit the subscribe button. Your support helps us share more powerful real-life stories like this one. Stay with us till the end. And if this story speaks to you, let us know in the comments and share it with a friend. Now, let's begin. The gavel struck, a sharp, cracking sound that made the courtroom flinch. Marcus Hayes didn't. He stood firm, shoulders squared, the kind of stillness that comes when there's nothing left to lose. Harsh fluorescent lights glared down from above, cold and unforgiving. The judge read out a list, numbers, assets, valuations, words that once meant late nights, effort, and pride. Today, they sounded like items being checked off a shipping manifest. Across the aisle, Claire sat back with ease, one leg crossed over the other, calm and self-assured, like someone enjoying an upgrade to first class. A faint smile curved her lips as her lawyer slid a document forward. Pens clicked. Whispers stirred from the back. "He lost it all?" one person murmured. "Yeah," another replied. "Married the wrong woman." Marcus adjusted his tie not to fix it, just to remind himself he still existed. His palms tingled. The air smelled of dust and old paper. He looked down at Jasmine, 10 years old, small, quiet, her chin tucked into her sweater as if trying to disappear. Her tiny hand wrapped around two of his fingers, and he clenched his jaw, forcing emotion to stay hidden from the watching cameras. The court awards the petitioner controlling interest in Hayes Innovations, subsidiary holdings, primary residences in Riverest and Lakeview, and liquid accounts totaling. The judge's voice blurred, fading into a dull hum. Then came the final line. Simple, routine, yet final. It's except the secondary property on Millstone Hill. A ripple of laughter followed, low and dismissive. "The haunted mansion," someone whispered. "Crumbling relic," another added. Claire didn't look up. She simply brushed a strand of hair behind her ear as if the word ruins didn't belong in her world. She placed the pen down with a soft tap that, to Marcus, sounded like a lock closing. He inhaled slowly, exhaled slower. This was the kind of moment where most men would break. Marcus didn't. He let the embarrassment pass through him like cold rain you don't bother avoiding. He'd known pain that didn't trend, and grief no one posted about. He swallowed, shifted his stance slightly. Not dramatic, just deliberate. A decision not to crumble. "Yo, think he's done?" a voice whispered as he walked out. "Looks like it," came another, softer, almost sympathetic. "He used to help kids with scholarships, remember? Life's strange." Marcus adjusted the strap of Jasmine's backpack and guided her toward the exit. The hallway smelled faintly of toner and stale coffee. Cameras blinked red. A guard scratched his jaw, his eyes lingering a second too long. Behind them, Claire's laughter floated through the air, light, practiced, and certain. The kind of laugh that belongs to someone convinced the world answers to them. Outside, the wind cut through his suit and rustled the few leaves in the lifeless planters. Traffic hissed. A delivery truck beeped as it reversed. Jasmine's breath turned to mist. Marcus bent slightly to meet her eyes. "We're okay," he said quietly, more to steady himself than to reassure her. On the curb, two interns in cheap suits exchanged comments. "She took everything," one said. "Even told him to enjoy that old house." The other shrugged. "That's all he deserves." A pause, then a quiet reply. "Man, that's harsh." Marcus turned his eyes toward the city's glass towers, then beyond them, toward a hill unseen from here. Millstone Hill, a place everyone thought was finished. He let the thought settle, calm and solid. He rolled back his sleeve, revealing the thin edge of the watch he'd worn since his first contract. Tick, tick. Not the sound of defeat, the rhythm of patience. He raised 2 fingers to hail a cab. The handle felt colder than the wind. Jasmine climbed in first. He followed, careful, composed. The seat creaked as the car merged into traffic. In the mirror, the courthouse grew smaller, along with the noise, the gossip, and everyone else's certainty. Let them keep their laughter, Marcus thought. Let them have their headlines. He still had something none of them could name, and it waited exactly where she had sworn never to look. The mansion on Millstone Hill looked lifeless, almost hollow. From the outside, it stood like the remains of another era. The roof sagging, ivy gripping the bricks, shutters barely hanging on. The gravel path was overrun with weeds, and the front gate leaned awkwardly as if too tired to stay upright. Even the air felt slower, heavier here. Marcus stepped out of the cab with Jasmine close beside him. The driver lingered for a moment, staring at the property before shaking his head. "You really staying here, man?" he asked, not out of judgment but disbelief. Marcus didn't reply. He pushed open the rusted iron gate, the hinges groaning from years of neglect. The air carried the scent of damp soil and decay, a smell most would call ruin, but to Marcus it meant privacy. Inside, the floorboards creaked beneath their steps. Strips of wallpaper hung loose, revealing plaster the color of worn bone. Water had stained the ceiling, leaving faded brown rings behind. Somewhere in the distance, a window frame rattled softly in the wind. Jasmine wrinkled her nose. "Dad, it's kind of creepy." He glanced at her, a faint smirk tugging at his mouth. "That's what makes it perfect." What she didn't know, and what no one beyond these walls ever would, was that 10 years earlier, before Claire, before the courtroom losses, Marcus had turned this very house into his insurance plan. Back when Hayes Innovations was thriving, Marcus had already started to see the dangers of visible wealth, how quickly it could vanish through taxes, lawsuits, or so-called friends waiting for a chance to take. Using a false name, he hired a contractor and paid in cash, claiming it was for a wine cellar expansion. But Marcus personally oversaw every step. He had the walls reinforced with steel, installed a triple-lock vault door, climate control, and silent alarms disconnected from any network. Over the years, he filled that hidden space, piece by piece, stacks of cash, gold bars, rare diamonds, and antique jewelry worth more than entire homes. He never mentioned it to his late wife. She wouldn't have understood the need for such secrecy. And Claire? She had never set foot in the place. She used to call it the haunted shell of his family's past, wrinkling her nose as if stepping inside might ruin her manicure. Now, Marcus guided Jasmine down a narrow hallway toward what looked like an ordinary broom closet. The key felt cold in his hand as the lock turned slowly. The air shifted, a faint metallic chill, like the breath of something long asleep. The door opened to reveal a steep staircase disappearing into shadow. Dust drifted through the light of a single bare bulb. Marcus descended carefully, one step at a time, his polished shoes leaving faint marks in the thin dust. Jasmine followed close behind, her sneakers squeaking softly on the steps. At the bottom, they reached another door, plain, wooden, and harmless at first glance. Marcus knelt down. With a soft mechanical sigh, the panel slid open, revealing the vault door behind it. The steel surface was still flawless, untouched by time. Marcus turned the wheel lock slowly, each motion deliberate. The air that greeted them was cool, carrying a faint trace of cedar and something richer, the scent of wealth. Gold bars were stacked like solid rays of sunlight. Cash sat neatly wrapped in plastic bundles. Velvet boxes lined the shelves, each holding diamonds that caught the dim light and split it into countless tiny sparks. Jasmine's eyes widened, but she stayed silent. Her small steps echoed softly across the concrete floor as she moved closer. Marcus placed a hand on one stack of gold. "This is why we don't panic," he said quietly, his tone calm and even. Above them, a loose shutter banged once in the wind, a sound that could have been mistaken for the house breathing. Marcus stood there for a moment, letting the silence settle. The world believed he was finished. Claire thought she had stripped him of everything. But here, in this cold, silent room, he wasn't broken. He was secure. Not ready to strike yet, but ready to rebuild. He didn't touch most of the wealth. That was the plan. Empires aren't rebuilt by showing your cards all at once. They grow quietly, like wire being threaded through the dark. For the first 2 weeks after the divorce, he left the mansion exactly as it looked, broken and forgotten. The shutters still rattled, weeds still crept across the drive, and from the outside it appeared one harsh winter away from collapse. It kept unwanted attention at bay. Each morning after walking Jasmine to school, Marcus returned, head down, hands in pockets. He slipped inside, descended into the vault, and took only what he needed. A single envelope of cash, a small velvet box, just enough to fund the next move without being noticed. His first call was to an old friend, Arturo, who ran a discreet pawn and metals exchange out of a quiet warehouse near the docks. No receipts, just trust and a handshake. Arturo's eyes widened when the first diamond hit the table. "Man, you've been holding out on me." Marcus smiled faintly. "No," he said, "just waiting." While Claire appeared at galas in new gowns, Marcus was making quiet, strategic moves, buying back influence one piece at a time, an underperforming logistics firm that no one watched, a small portion of stock in an energy company whose CEO still owed him a favor, a tech startup barely mentioned now, but certain to take off within 2 years. Meanwhile, whispers about Claire had already started drifting through coffee shops and business lunches. "She's running Hayes Innovations now." "Poor girl's in over her head," one voice said. "She can't tell a ledger from a lunch menu." "Give it time. The sharks will catch the scent." Even Jasmine overheard such talk. One afternoon at the corner store, she listened quietly as 2 women near the frozen aisle whispered that Claire took everything from her husband. Yeah, and now she's about to lose it all herself. Karma's patient. When they left the store, Jasmine glanced up at her father with a small, knowing smile. Marcus only raised an eyebrow. "People talk," he said. "We let them." Back at the mansion, things began to change. Not the exterior, and not yet, but inside. Marcus restored the old study, replacing warped wood and sealing broken windows. He turned a dusty drawing room into a clean, modern office with a wide mahogany desk and 2 leather chairs. The vault became an extension of that office, a treasury supporting a vision only he could see. Each night, he stood by the cracked second-story window, watching headlights drift along the distant road, feeling the calm satisfaction of slow progress. By the 3rd month, the vault was lighter, maybe by 2%, but the returns were already taking shape. Overseas partners began calling at unusual hours. Accounts under his name started to fill. Not from assets Claire could reach, but from ventures she wouldn't even understand. Then, one morning, as Marcus reviewed contracts in his newly restored study, his phone buzzed with a message from Arturo. "She's in trouble. Your ex." Real trouble. Marcus leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled as the leather creaked softly beneath him. It wasn't time to celebrate yet, but it was getting close. By the 4th month, Claire's glossy social media updates started to fade. No more champagne toasts against skyline views. No more red carpet photos with business elites. Instead, there were dimly lit restaurant snapshots, forced captions, and a noticeable absence of the friends who once surrounded her. The talk in the business district grew sharper. Hayes Innovations missed another quarterly report. Vendors aren't getting paid. She's mortgaging her properties now. Desperate move. Marcus heard every detail without asking. People love sharing bad news about someone who's wronged you. It's like tossing crumbs to ducks. But Marcus didn't gloat. Not yet. He stayed inside the mansion, quietly refining his plans, moving funds, and building silent empires from the shadows. One rainy afternoon, he was working in his study when the business news channel interrupted with a headline. "Breaking: Hayes Innovations faces foreclosure on 2 major properties after defaulting on multiple loans." The anchor's tone was neutral, But the footage told the real story. Clips of Claire leaving the courthouse, hair matted to her cheek, makeup washed pale by the rain. She no longer looked like a queen. She looked like someone forced out of her own kingdom. By the 6th month, the downfall was complete. Bankruptcy filings hit. Luxury cars were repossessed. The penthouse was auctioned off. She even tried selling the company's remaining assets, only to learn that most were under liens she couldn't clear. Marcus's phone buzzed constantly. Reporters wanted his comments on the dramatic collapse of his former company. Investors wanted him back. Overseas partners were ready to fund whatever project he launched next. That was when he decided it was time. The comeback wasn't loud. It was calculated. Invitations went out for a launch event at the city's most iconic skyscraper. The press release announced Hayes Global Investments, a firm dedicated to high-value, high-integrity ventures. It was a clear message. I'm back. And this time, no one's taking it away. On launch day, the lobby was filled with cameras, reporters, and industry leaders. Marcus stepped onto the stage in a charcoal suit, every detail precise. Beside him stood Jasmine, smiling, confident, dressed simply yet elegantly. He never mentioned Claire by name. He didn't need to. Success, Marcus told the crowd, isn't about what others give you or take from you. It's about what you're willing to protect, even when the world thinks you've lost. Applause filled the hall. Cameras flashed like stars. For a brief moment, Marcus allowed himself to feel it. The relief, the freedom, the clean start. Meanwhile, across town in a cramped apartment she could barely afford, Claire scrolled through the headlines. Under Marcus's photo, the caption read, "From ruins to riches. Marcus Hayes returns stronger than ever." The coffee in her mug had gone cold. The laugh she once used to mock him was gone, too, replaced by silence. And on Millstone Hill, the mansion still stood, its shutters repaired, its gates straightened, and its secrets untouched. Because Marcus knew one truth: you never show the world all your cards. You let them think they've won, until the day they realize they were playing the wrong game all along. If you thought Marcus's comeback was satisfying, just wait for our next story. Another betrayal, a bigger twist, and a revenge you won't see coming, so don't forget to hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and stay with us, because you won't want to miss what's next.